good morning. This is Sauti Radio in Southeast London, your number one health and well-being radio in Catford, Southeast 6, London, United Kingdom. I am your program presenter and moderator, Oumai Obanda. This is yet another radio segment where we hope to make direct contact with the diverse African community across the country. We hope to highlight pertinent health issues of concern to you and which the Africa Advocacy Foundation champions in the community. On our program schedule this morning is sexual health and PrEP, which means pre-exposure prophylaxis. My guest today, Dr. Vanessa Apea, wears several hats. She is a sexual health and HIV doctor. She is a health services researcher. She is a health equity champion and a lecturer at the Queen Mary University of London. Join me as I engage Dr. Vanessa in a discussion about sexual health and pre-exposure prophylaxis. Welcome to the show.
You're listening to your number one station.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vanessa. I'm pleased to have you here today, and I should thank you for accepting Sauti Radio's invitation to our interview with you. Maybe you should start by introducing yourself.
Oh, great. No, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Dr. Vanessa Apea. I'm a consultant in sexual health and HIV, and I work in East London, and I'm also a honorary senior lecturer at Queen Mary University in London, and I research into race, gender, and health.
Great. Maybe I should start also by asking you, what is sexual health and why is it called sexual health when you're only referring to sexual illnesses like STIs?
That's such a good question because I often think that as well. Why do we, I don't think it's out there enough exactly what sexual health is. And I think that when I think about sexual health and when we look at the definition, it's a state of physical, emotional, social, and mental well-being when it's related to sexuality. So it isn't just the absence of infection or dysfunction or anything. It's really important to have a positive view on it, that sexual health requires you to have a really respectful and positive approach to sexuality and sexual relationships. Yeah.
And why is this topic of sexual health important? Or rather, why does it matter?
I think it's so important because, first of all, as I mentioned, sexual health is related to our physical, psychological, and social well-being. So it impacts a lot on us. So if we don't have good sexual health and we're not having positive and fulfilling sexual relationships or experiences, this affects our physical and mental well-being. And so it's important for us to be whole and to be well, definitely.
And what crucial information do you think we can benefit from as members of the Black community in the United Kingdom?
A lot. I think that within the Black community specifically, but like many communities, the topic of sex and relationships and sexually transmitted infections and how to protect yourself just isn't out there enough because there's a lot of taboo and stigma talking about sex. We're not brought up to talk about sex openly. And sometimes if we do, we feel that people will feel that we are promiscuous or having lots of sex, and that's all that is on our mind. So that really can stop us asking the questions that we need to ask so that we are safe, protected, and we feel confident about ourselves, which is really important. Yeah.
If I do not think I'm at risk of contracting sexually transmitted infection, and I know my partner, why should I be worried? So,
first of all, when I listen to that, first of all, I think about it's not always about being worried. So let's spin that. It's about being aware of ourselves and considering things. So if we remove worry from that and we think, okay, I am with someone and I am having sex, whether it's protected or unprotected, I'm having sex with another person, I need to think about, am I doing everything that I can to make sure that I have a safe experience and a fulfilling experience? So if we think of it like that, then when we're thinking about sex, it doesn't matter whether we know for definite or we think that our partner is only having sex with us. It's not just about, is someone doing something right or wrong? It's like, what do I need to do? What do I need to consider to have a positive sex life? So in that respect, if you're with someone and you're having unprotected sex, know that you have recently done your test and you know that you are negative. Know that your partner has had their test and you are assured that they're negative, and you are assured that there is no one else in that relationship. Then you make that decision. Okay, I feel that I am being as safe as possible. You may decide, I still want to use condoms, but you also may decide, okay, I know that we both don't have any infections, but I still want to use condoms. And that's your choice. I think also, if we have that mindset, then we do think of things such as PrEP, which I'm sure we'll talk into more, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis. And it's a tablet that you can take before sex to stop you acquiring HIV if your partner does have HIV. So you may consider, okay, I know about PrEP, but I'm deciding in this relationship, I don't need it. But that shouldn't stop us knowing about it. And I think if we have that mindset that we need to know about everything that we need to have a fulfilling sex life, then we will know about everything and we make our own decisions based on that.
Okay. Why do you think sexual health topic is unpopular among the members of the Black community? And how can we as a community activist promote positive sexual health?
Yeah, I think it relates to what I said before about stigma, taboo about sex. I don't always like to attribute everything to culture, but culture is a rich part of us. And I know that when I was growing up, when, my grandma would always say to me, keep your legs closed when you're sitting there. The only time people talk to me about sex was when, I always laugh about it, on the dance floor on my wedding day. Then my aunt came to whisper in my ear about, make sure you, and these are her words, make sure you give your husband a good time. That was her view about sex. And that's the only times that you would talk about it in your family. In my family, should I say. And even with my friends, it was only some that may talk about it, but not always directly, So I think because it's something that we are not all comfortable in talking about and sharing, that then can feed into this kind of secret bubble about sex and you where you get your information from, you rely on magazines, TV programs and things like that. So I think as community activists within our community, we need to create as many safe spaces to have these conversations, So we need to get the message out there and get it to people where they are, not expect them to always come to health clinics and things like that. Get out there and speak to them, but also, sometimes it's appropriate to go up to people when they're shopping. But sometimes people don't want to be thinking about that when they're shopping. They want to focus on doing that, getting back home to do other stuff. So it's about, okay, where are the different places that we can go to interact with people? Having great websites, showing people where those websites are. Things like this, being on the radio so that you can be at home, you're driving, you hear positive conversations about sex, and then that builds your confidence to think about it and also ask about it as well. I think media, mass media and social media is so important. And I think that it's important to have activists that look like you involved because there's a certain way of how we communicate with each other.
Yes.
And being aware of that whole kind of cultural competency, knowing that doesn't mean to say that it's for Black communities, it only has to be Black people talking to us, but it means that just making sure that you've got representation there from our communities as we're talking about it. Yeah.
And it's been reported that there is a decline in new infections of HIV in the UK. Is HIV still an issue in the United Kingdom?
I think the short answer to that is yes.
It's still an issue.
It is an issue. I think that, we have made, within the UK, we have made tremendous strides within HIV. As working within the specialty, it's something that I'm really proud of. Like when we look at, when there are certain targets that we work towards within the UK, from the UN AIDS, from the United Nations that's focused on AIDS, that aspect of the UN, they've given us some targets to try and focus to diagnose people and to support them in care and to get them on treatment. And when you look at the numbers, we are doing really well, but we are not at 100%.
Okay.
We're around the 97, 95, 98, but we're not at 100%. And for me, until we get to 100%, until we have no new transmissions of HIV, HIV is still an issue.
And do you think we'll hit that target?
I am a very optimistic person. I really hope so. I think we've done a lot of work, but we have a lot more work to do.
Okay.
And when it's like anything, when you're doing things for the majority, you can make a real impact. When you're doing things to engage smaller numbers, often you have to put more effort in to identify and support those numbers. And that's where we are. We're at a time that we know that there are a number of people living with HIV that have not been diagnosed yet within the UK. So we need to do a lot of work to identify those people and support them and get them into care. And then we also need to do a lot of work in terms of prevention. So people that are negative, supporting them to stay negative. Okay. So we have a lot of work to do, but I believe we can do it.
Okay. And how can one prevent themselves from contracting HIV?
So again, when we talk about HIV and the field of it, things have moved forward tremendously. So we do not have a cure for HIV, but we've got highly effective treatment, which really means that if someone living with HIV and they are on treatment, an effective treatment, and their viral load is suppressed and undetectable, as what we call it, with treatment, that means a number of things. That means that if they have sex with someone, they cannot pass it on. We call that U equals U. Undetectable is untransmittable. Okay. It means that a woman who is living with HIV and is on treatment and gets pregnant, she will not pass it on to her baby. It means that people living with HIV, their life expectancy can be the same as someone not living with HIV. So we've come a long way within HIV. And one of the biggest game changers that we have is something called PrEP. So PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. And this is crucial in HIV prevention. So we have condoms, which can stop someone passing on HIV. But we know that not everyone uses condoms. Not everyone likes using them. Not everyone can feel confident enough to ask their partner to use condoms. So we have something that you can take before sex that can stop you acquiring HIV.
In fact, now you bring me to the question, and I'll just get into it. What is PrEP and who might take before?
Yeah. So PrEP, and I'm going to repeat it again. So PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. So this is a tablet that you can take before sex that can stop you acquiring HIV.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you are having sex with someone who is living with HIV, or someone, so someone that's living with HIV, when you're taking PrEP, you will not acquire HIV from them. And that is a game changer. And that has, really changed the face of HIV. So when we talk about the numbers of new transmissions and new diagnoses of HIV, PrEP has been crucial in that. But one of the limiting factors about PrEP and its impact is that not enough people know about it, and not enough people think that PrEP is for them, or they should consider it. So in answer to your question, who should take it? For me, anyone that is having sex, anyone that is having unprotected sex should know about PrEP.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, then, dependent on what is happening in your relationship, if it's someone that you know is living with HIV, or someone that you are concerned that they are having other partners and you cannot be assured that they are HIV negative, if you are having you're having unprotected sex with people that you don't have longer term relationships with, it's short term, and you're worried about risk, and that's in your mind, you should consider it then. So for me, anyone that is having unprotected sex needs to think, do I need to take PrEP? And in our minds, we have often, many people think that PrEP is only for those that are having multiple partners, and they know their partner is having other partners and things like that. And I always say with sex, you only know what you are doing every minute of every day. And you are the one that goes for your tests, and you will know your status. Yeah. But sometimes not everyone is fortunate to be in relationships that they can ask their partner. So for some people, they can't even ask their partner, are you HIV negative? They'll get shouted at, put down, abused, whether it's verbally or physically. For some people, they just culturally don't feel confident to ask.
Or talk about it.
Exactly. For some people, they are worried that if they even suggest it, it will undermine their relationship and make their partner think that they don't trust them, etc. All a host of things.
So that's a genuine concern.
Exactly. And you understand it. And it's a really genuine concern. And so in all of that, there is something that that can empower you, that can increase your confidence around sex, gives you an opportunity to explore and then work with your partner. If you meet someone, you really like them, they tell you that they're living with HIV, and in your mind you're like, what's going to happen now? Can we have sex? Can I have a fulfilling relationship with this person? Can we have unprotected sex? And then you have something that can allow that for you to enjoy each other, and irrespective of your partner's HIV status. So in many, many ways, it is so powerful. But for it to really have an impact in our communities, we have to know about it. We have to remove all the assumptions and negativity about it, and consider it in the same way we consider condoms, in the same way we consider contraception. We consider PrEP. Is it relevant for me?
Okay. Why do you think there's a low uptake for PrEP in the Black community in the UK?
Yeah, I think it's awareness. I think it's confidence and knowledge about it, because you can be aware that PrEP exists, but you may not fully understand what it means. Do you see what I mean? So it's awareness and knowledge. But for me, one of the biggest things is that concept of risk and am I a candidate for PrEP? And what I was just saying before is that we make so many assumptions of what PrEP is and how it and who it's for that if you can't see that you are within that picture bracket, then you remove yourself from it. And so I think what has happened is that people do not see how it could be relevant for them. And so they don't see it as a candidate. They don't think of it as anything relevant to them. So they completely disregard it. And so I think that it is not for everyone, but for everyone having unprotected sex, they need to know about it and consider it and think, am I a candidate for it? And I also think that, as a doctor, I'm always thinking that we need to do better within healthcare to support people about this. So, and remove our judgments and biases and assumptions and ask people, do you know about PrEP? Don't assume someone knows. Do you know about PrEP? Talk to them about whether it could be something for them. Normalize that conversation. So it's in the same way when I talk to women about smear tests, I will talk to them, do you know about PrEP? Do you know about contraception? Do you know about your options? Having that in the regular conversations.
People who are listening to us would probably ask, how effective is this PrEP and why should I trust it?
Yeah, such a good question. And so there have been a number of studies which have shown that PrEP is effective. And we had one of the pivotal trials within the UK that was looking at the use of PrEP within people that were having regular unprotected sex, and some of them were within couples where one was positive and one was negative. We've had studies in which people are having regular unprotected sex and they're taking PrEP. And the number of HIV diagnoses and new HIV transmissions was almost zero. And so we know that PrEP is highly effective. We know that if someone is taking it properly, as is advised, then it will stop you getting HIV.
Okay.
And we know that. And there are studies around the world in different groups of people having different types of sex, which gives us that information.
Okay. In fact, then I would ask you, how does one take PrEP and where can they find it?
Yeah. So what I will say is that dependent on the type of sex that you are having, dictates how you should take PrEP. So in all cases, you'll be taking PrEP for a number of days before the episode of unprotected sex. But for if you're having vaginal sex, if you're having anal sex, the timing is different. So what I always say is that it comes to where you can get it from. So you can go to any sexual health service and get PrEP. PrEP is free on the NHS. And that we have fought, I say we, because we take that as a collective within the HIV sector, but there have been pivotal people that have fought for PrEP to be free on the NHS. And I'm really, so excited and proud to be in a country that we have PrEP free. So
for everybody?
For everyone. So we have PrEP free for everyone. And so you can access it within sexual health services. So when you want to access it, and what I say to people is be open and honest about the type of sex that you are having so that we can give you the right information to tell you how to take it. That's number one. Number two, you can also get it online, but online you will have to pay for it, but you can access it online. But there are also really good websites that you can get information about PrEP.
Okay.
So we have iwantprepnow.org.uk. You've got womenandprep.org.uk. You've got different organizations that have information about PrEP on their websites. So do read up about it as well. So you feel more empowered about it.
Okay.
But you can access it free on the NHS from any sexual health service.
Okay. Why is PrEP important topic in our community, the Black community in the UK?
I think anything that we don't know enough about, anything that we have access to and we don't access in the same way as other communities, it's important to us because it's relevant. Do you see what I mean? Because we have something that is free and accessible. And for many, what we see is that many Black communities are not taking it up. Now, there is no problem with that if we could say, hand on heart, that all communities know about it, they've thought about it, and they think it's not relevant for them appropriately. Then we have no problem, that it's not relevant. But I don't think that's the case. And I think, and I would say most people that are involved in this work do not believe that is the case. What we believe is that there are many people that do not know about it, many people that perhaps are missing an opportunity for this to be in their lives and to give them more confidence, freedom and safety, and they don't know about it. And so for that reason, I think it is so important for our communities to know about it. And I think that the way our communities work, you know, word of mouth, conversations, that's how, you know, it's from our roots, from our ancestry of how we communicate and work with each other. And I think that there's great power in those that are listening to listen about it, read about it, and then share with their friends, their networks, their family, so that this message gets out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that there are better ways to promote PrEP among the Black community? What role would this play in reducing health disparities among the Black communities in the UK?
I think, yes, building on to what I've just said is that I believe there's a lot that we can do within our communities of trying to break down that stigma and create spaces that we can share information. You know, I always say, and that's why you'll see some great work that's been done in the past. Unfortunately, what happens in life is that someone has an idea, gets some funding to do a really great initiative, and then the funding stops. And so they don't get to continue it. And that's a real problem that I think that as communities, we need to fight for together to make sure that the funding goes to the right places so that we can develop initiatives that work for our communities. Because, you know, simply one example, you know, relevant to me, you know, when I go to the hairdresser, the conversations that we have there are everything, you know, and whenever I get the chance, I will talk about sex, HIV, PrEP, awareness, education and things like that. And there's something powerful in that because then people are like, oh, really? And then it's a safe space for them to ask me or anyone else that knows things about it, anything. And then you give people a space to ask about their fears, their concerns, just for their general interest. And then they are armed with the right information. They are guided to the right places to get the accurate information. And then they pass that information on. And I think more of us in our communities need to have opportunities to learn about sex, HIV, sex positivity, true sexual health. And then I think that aspect of legitimizing it. So saying in our communities, there's nothing dirty talking about sex. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. There's nothing negative. In fact, it's really positive to talk about it so that we are giving the right information to our peers and to the children that are growing up so that when they have the right information as well. We need to be thinking about our generation and then the generation that are coming up as well.
And do you think societal stigma around sexual health has restricted access to health services available to the Black communities?
Definitely. And I've been talking a lot about stigma and taboos within our communities, but there is also, I completely recognize that societal stigma, external stigma that we perceive from others, maybe outside of our communities and within healthcare, that can exist. And so I think that if you go sometimes there's so many thoughts about this. If you go into healthcare and you are concerned that, you know, there's going to be, if I tell the doctor or nurse or someone there that, oh, actually, I'm worried that my partner is abroad and has another partner, or I'm worried about this in sex. You're worried. Sometimes you are worried that they will have a negative opinion of you because you are black, and they will make their assumption about the negativity about black people and sex and things like that. So then that stops people going there. They're worried about judgments and assumptions and biases, and I completely understand that. But what I do believe is that. Number one, that isn't everywhere. And I would say that many services, many sexual health services, you know, we function on not being judgmental, being open, having, we've generally heard stories about everything that you can think of, you know? So never feel shy to come in and say anything. In fact, you have the best conversations when you are honest, and you get the best care that you need when you are open and honest, and you will not be judged. But I respect that people may have had negative experiences and have heard that. And also society in general can make us feel as if, that, you know, in our communities, we may be over-sexualized and things, all these things. And it can affect us. And it can affect our confidence about talking about sex. But what I would urge people is don't let someone else's ignorance about us or you affect you and your health and your joy and peace. That's what I would say.
And how can we advance discussions around PrEP among members of the Black community in your own estimation?
I really think it's like conversations like this. I think it's, just getting out there and putting it in, making it easy for people to hear about it. So not having people scramble for it. You know, as I said before, getting out there so people can, it's within easy reach. We don't want to saturate people and bombard them, but we want to give them regular opportunities to learn about it. Be that on TV, be that on radio, be that on social media, be that on leaflets in shops, everywhere. You know, having an opportunity to assimilate that information, but not bombard people.
And what 3 key messages will you leave our listeners with on this topic of sexuality, sexual health, and PrEP?
So 3 messages. I would say that, first of all, that sexual health is so important and has an impact on all aspects of your health. So it is really important that you prioritize your sexual health and your sexual well-being, because it can be transformative in your life if you have positive sexual health. So that's one thing. I would say that HIV is also a disease that has changed tremendously over the past 40 years. We have highly effective treatment, which means that if you are living with HIV and you are on treatment, and your viral load is undetectable, you cannot pass it on. If someone is living with HIV, they can have children without passing it on. You can have a fulfilling life with HIV. So do not let stigma about HIV affect people living with HIV, but also don't let that stigma stop you from going to get tested either. So know that HIV has changed tremendously. And then the third thing is PrEP. Know what PrEP is. PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. This is also a game changer that allows you to have sex, unprotected sex with someone that may be living with HIV, and you will not get HIV. So it is part of empowering you. It is part of you enjoying sex safely. And quite simply, consider it. If you are having sex, if you are having unprotected sex, consider, is PrEP for me? That's what I would say.
Dr. Vanessa Apea, thank you for your time and insight. It's been a pleasure talking to you about sexual health and pre-exposure prophylaxis. I look forward to hosting you again on Sauti Radio next time. Thank you, Dr. Vanessa.
No, thank you so much. It's been great to speak. It's been lovely.
To all our esteemed listeners, I thank you for your time, support, and continued listenership. A week today, we shall be on air discussing yet another health and well-being community-based project by the Africa Advocacy Foundation. On behalf of Sauti Radio, I am your presenter and moderator, Ouma E. Obanda. Once more, thank you very much and have a good morning.
You're listening to Sauti Radio.
Your number one online radio.